Hello, welcome back to Transformer TCG fans. I'm going to be talking real fast because, you know, we came up with a personal timepiece, or I did. I guess I try to use it like a plural pronoun, like an idiot, like some of these youngsters, just because to try to humble myself a little more instead of just saying I all the time. So anyway, personal timepiece. If you remember, it's an upgrade that starts with 3 counters on it, which is unusual. Normally, a lot of the upgrades that are counter based, you're normally trying to get them on the upgrades to make them powerful. But the personal timepiece kind of goes backwards. You know, each time the equipped character defends, take a counter off the upgrade. And so if your opponent scraps this off you, this isn't going to trigger the non-damage, because the trigger is when this has 0 counters. Scrap this card and do 3 damage to an enemy character. So if it gets scrapped first and it has counters on it, yes, the counters do get taken off, but the scrap is happening before the counters go to 0 happen. So the counters have to go to 0, get scrapped, do the non-attack damage. So if it gets scrapped, that's a different story. It's all about in the timing, about the domino effect and combos that this game demands and allows. So the personal timepiece, we have to go back and, you know, talk about or briefly mention the destructive counter. And what I've basically done, I've gone back, been trying to go through and update these and take the D off, and, you know, trying to make things a little more universal other than say Torq. Because if we go back and look at Torq is a stratagem in conjunction with the utility with the Torq control chip. You can have up to 3 Torq control chips, of course, in your deck. You can only have 3 and no more, which allows the Torq counter tower to enhance your upgrade abilities. If you have somebody like, you know, that Optimus Prime that can allow multiple utilities, or even Buddy's extra measures armor to add another utility, yes, the +1, the health will stack and give you +2 or +3 to the character for health, but the upgrades don't stack for Torq's abilities. And so I kind of just called that, left that as a T counter and not an actual counter. So you can't mix Torq's counters with all the regular counters, which are somewhat universal, going back through you know, Mystical Energy, the Laser Core, Hot Rod's Dual Bow, Fort Armor, Forge of Solus Prime, yeah, even Fire Charge, which can only go in combiners, field guns, giving you some about up to Pierce 3 from a utility side, etc., etc. The Eneron Counter Axe, also allowing actually an attack at 2 up to Pierce 4. Once you get to Pierce 4, it gets scrapped, you know. And being able to, you know, some of these are artifacts, so you can have we have I almost said a rotating, a swappable action card, the artifact Detector. Take an artifact from your scrap and put it in your hand. So because a lot of the artifacts don't have green pips, these are not base cards, you can't get them that easily. Unfortunately, they're not as strong as, say, something like the Master Sword, to be able to change out a utility to be able to get that into the game, which is what I used with the artifacts, the gimmick for these, for some of them, like, you know, the Star Saber is an artifact. Mystical Energy is an artifact, and if you notice, there, when you play this artifact, it doesn't say when you play an artifact, because they're not all utilities, they're not all weapons, they're all a little different. So it's when you play this one, this is how it comes into the game. So it's a general rule that they do play a lot like the Master Sword, but, you know, I tried to make the action of the artifacts a little specific to the upgrade itself. So I hope that's okay. And of course, we have all sorts of action cards like Mega Charge, Ponder the Steel, Underwater Search, and and a couple of others. Oh, I forgot the phase shifter. The phase shifter is a favorite of mine when testing these because you can get up to a tough 4 to get more flips and +1 to defense. And once you get it up to that tough 4, it reduce pierce to 0, then scrap the card. So it's a nice defensive card for those types of decks. It does work. I like it. You know, trying to get the counters on these upgrades is a game to itself. And as quick as the game goes, you may not get any counters on these at all. It all depends, you know. And it's not much, but I did the Ferrotaxis off the Devastation game, giving your Insecticons some extra defense for the most part. It's not that great, but I wanted to introduce the Ferrotaxis into the game, and once I realized, oh, they did this to control the Insecticons in the game, blah blah blah. Okay, we'll do something with it. In the destructive counter action itself, which you can get on the flip to get a counter, you know, Spark Extractor is a little different. Rearview Mirror, I forget about that one. But the whole point of this was, you know, was talking about stack, moving an opponent's counter from an upgrade to another upgrade, an opponent's counter. So yeah, you can move it to one of their other upgrades that they may not even take counters, just to get it off. Of course, you know, we have Vaporize and Crushing Size, or you just, or other cards to, you know, just wipe off the upgrade. You know, what-de-do. Do I really need this orange pip card called Stack? No. But it would go against you if you tried to do that with a personal timepiece. But in the meantime, if they do have something like, I don't know, the Forge of Solus Prime and the personal timepiece as a utility, the personal timepiece starts with counters, which is backwards. They're trying to get counters on one of their other ones that might be an artifact, and you have Stack. Well, you're like, well, I don't want the personal timepiece to trigger. Maybe they're only too tall or something, and so you're able to use Stack to move a counter off their artifact to the personal timepiece with Stack, you know, or you can move it to one of your own upgrades as well if you're playing with these types of cards. So there's that. Now I was wanting to go over a few other things, including, and a lot of this has been, but it's just a lot of corrections that are going on. Because the key to Vector Sigma, I think, was originally a utility, and I talked about this in my last video, and I'm thinking, where am I talking about it being a utility and changing the attack down to 1, etc., etc.? I'm like, I don't remember this. So I was trying to find the key to Vector Sigma, and I've got a couple of copies in here. Trust me, it's not exclusive, but it has changed over time, and apparently if it is a utility, you're not supposed to have more than like 1 attack or 1 defense on a utility for an upgrade. And so I did find one in my rewind here that I think this is final, because I have changed it. It's one of the first ones I ever did way back when on my phone, etc., if you remember. But now it's still a blank pip card. It is not a star. It's going to give Pierce 1, Bold 1, and +3 to attack, which is strong. But again, it's still like a fusion bore, but not like a fusion bore, because a fusion bore is +3 Pierce 3. This is +3 Pierce 1, but you do get some bold off of it also. After the equipped character attacks, do 1 damage to the equipped character if it's not a leader. Scrap this after battle. Originally I had this 2. Let's still do this too. Yeah, because that's what I had on when it was a utility. Because I have changed this up a little bit. So after the equipped character attacks, do 2 damage to the character if it's not the leader trait. Scrap this after battle. So it's still a scrap after battle like a fusion bore, but at the same time, you know, it has to be a leader. It can go on anybody now. Originally, it could only go on leaders, if you remember. In the meantime, with the key to Vector Sigma, you cannot use the Honorary Key Card, which I think is the Matrix from TF Prime, because that is a weapon. Unless it's you're using, is there an armor or utility that allows you to play two weapons, soldiers, shoulder holster, something like that. So yeah, you could have the Honorary Key Card on there first and get the key to Vector Sigma on that same character. Only thing with the Honorary Key Card is that you can only put on 7 stars or less Autobots, not Decepticons. So, and it is a weapon, and you would have to have some sort of setup like that. So Living Weapon Mechatron cannot wear the Honorary Key Card. Okay. Well, there might be a way to do that with an action card that I have made, but that it would take so much setup. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but there's some neat challenges you could try to do when playing the game if you lose the game. Imagine that. Anyway, so in the meantime, you got to remember Floating Throne, which is one of my favorites. It's an armor card that can go on anybody with Tough 1 and Defensive 1 and makes any character a leader. Now, of course, if you have to remember, I love playing around with the traits. And y'all saw that 2 years ago. So, when I came up with the Beast War characters, and that was 2 years ago. That was in 2021. February, January, someone on Facebook was like, ooh, has anyone done Beast War characters yet? And I got in there and went in, Beast War characters, yeah. So, Terrosaur is a unique character for almost the whole game. Because if you do not have a leader traded character on your team, or you control, he has the leader trait. So, he automatically, if you have him with other characters, and none of them is a leader, he's a leader traded character. So he can use the key of Vector Sigma and not get the 2 damage when it is scrapped from him. He would not need the Floating Throne to be turned into a leader. But in the meantime, what I was trying to get to is the Honorary Key Card. That can only go on Autobots. So if you want a character you want to change them to a leader, if they don't have the leader trait, use Floating Throne, which is a wonderful versatile card in turn. Then they can play the key to Vector Sigma, and you can see where we're going here with this and really play around, even if they're not quite the strongest card in the game, or neat combos. It's neat setups. So you're, just look at the stats, look at what's going on here, and you're like, oh, cool. We got Tough 1. This is on a Megatron. He's got Focus 1. It is going to give this character the leader trait, etc., along with the key to Vector Sigma. So now, if it's, you can see a lot of interesting things that are happening. I really think these cards work very well together. In the meantime, so just a lot of neat things that are going on for the most part. Grab it from Subspace, maybe a blank pip card, but it's almost too strong. When you may take a utility upgrade with no additional attack from your scrap and play it on a character. So, and I've made a lot of utilities. I gotta call it quits, guys. So you could use Grab It from Subspace to get the laser core right on a character, just like that, because it has to be a utility. It has to be in your scrap. It is a star card. So you could probably only have one in your deck, and you need to have cards in your deck to be able to get counters on the laser core, to be able to add health. Well, it's not giving any attack whatsoever, so yeah, that would be included, etc., etc., along with like something, let's say field guns, which is another a utility, white green, add counters, add up to Pierce 3 from a utility side. It's not even an artifact or anything like that. So etc., etc. That just a lot of neat things. Yes, that would include the Torq control chip. The grab it from Subspace is almost a little too strong, but I like it. You probably would only, since it's a blank pip card, you might only have one in your deck. But if you were going with, say, a larger size deck, 50, 60, you might have 3 in your deck. You can't get it on the flip, but you can draw it. The possibilities are there. This all just seems very well together. This feels right. I just wish I had the time to print this stuff up and see how this works, because it is very exciting to see this really come to fruition. 2 years later, how do these all work? How do these all play together? What's really too strong? What's really too weak? What's in your hand? The few times I've gotten to play the game and you're like, I don't even want to play this. I want this instead. Or, well, I need something to put in my art on an artifact, so I might as well play this. It may be a weaker card, or I may not get counters on it, but hey, I can swap it out and be able to my next turn if they're not KO'd, etc. Because sometimes the game can go pretty fast. Sometimes, especially if your blue-black decks, can make the game a little lengthy. But it all depends on how you're playing the game. So just a lot of interesting things. And even looking at the target box, which is an old idea that I came up with, and I ended up using now as the counter system after the equipped character defends. And this is a utility. Grab it from a subspace. Boom, you can get it right on a character like that. Maybe that is too strong. Maybe it is too strong. But no attack, no defense. But after the equipped character defends, repair the equipped character by 1 and put a counter on this. So in a sense, you're like moving their damage to the target box per battle after they defend. And you can get rid of up to 2 damage counters that way when it's scrapped. And that was my original intent as well. But now it's dealing with counters. Originally, it wasn't dealing with the counter stuff. And then being able to put some counters on stratagems like Torq, but he's special because I did not use the universal system, but one with the Matrix does deal with that. When a character on your team is KO'd, put a counter on this, so you're putting counters on a stratagem, kind of like the tower, the Constructicon tower. This adds bold to each Autobot or Maximal you control for each counter on the stratagem. If a character leaves the KO, take a counter off the stratagem. So let's say you are in a casual game and you do play PTT, Power Through Tyranny or whatever, and you do bring a character back. Well, you got to take the counter, one of the counters off the stratagem, and now you may only go from 1 to 0 or 2 to 1. And it's dealing with Autobots and Maximals here. I need to make another one that deals with, I guess, Decepticons and Predacons. So a lot of interesting things here. I really think a lot of this seems to work. If you're looking for something fresh and something new during this hiatus, kind of a dry spell from the ARC and ATP right now. I'm not sure when their ATP 10 is coming. Because a lot of people have been busy. I got to get a bit busy. I got to log in for work. We'll see you next time. Have not just a great day, but a blessed day. And as always, Autobots, flip out and let's roll for it.